Okay, so we're diving deep today into all this material you shared about, well, aging well.
Yeah.
And we're focusing specifically on that book, Age Well, Live Fully. Right,
Yeah.
But the real heart of what we want to uncover here is how do our connections, with others and with ourselves when we're alone,
Yeah.
how do those really affect how healthy and happy we are as we get older?
Yeah.
It feels kind of intuitive, doesn't it?
Well,
That as social creatures, like that need for connection just gets stronger over time.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. The material actually goes beyond just intuition,
Yeah.
It actually highlights these like really tangible benefits.
Oh,
Like it's not just about, social connection being nice addition to life. It's really like fundamental to our well-being.
really?
Like we're talking emotional support, mental engagement, feeling like you belong, all that.
Okay, so let's unpack that for a second.
Sure.
When we say multifaceted benefits,
Yeah.
it's got to be more than just like grabbing coffee with a friend, right?
Oh, way more.
Yeah.
The material really dives into how these social interactions can actually combat loneliness and isolation, which we know can have a really big impact on both our physical and mental health.
That's true.
Just think about, like, even sharing a worry or celebrating something good with someone,
Yeah.
that exchange, that empathy, it's almost like, it nourishes us.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is the book also makes it clear that strong supportive relationships, they don't just like magically appear,
Oh, what
right?
is that?
There's actual work
Yes.
involved. Like
Yeah.
it mentions things like active listening, being empathetic, and even like letting yourself be a little vulnerable, which,
Mm,
that's not always the easiest thing for people.
that's such a good point.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that you have to play an active role in growing these connections.
Hmm.
It's not just sitting back and waiting. You have to invest the effort to really listen to someone, try to understand their perspective, and yeah, be open. Let yourself be seen.
I get that.
What do you think are some common feels people have about like being vulnerable, and how do you think building these connections can actually help them get past those fears?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's always the fear of judgment, being misunderstood or rejected.
Right.
But it almost feels like when you do take that risk
Mm.
and connect on that deeper level, the reward is like a stronger, more resilient bond.
Yeah.
The materials seems to say that those moments of vulnerability, that's what builds real trust and intimacy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
It's like a positive cycle.
Mm.
Like taking that initial step to be vulnerable, it can be scary, but it often leads to being understood better and having more support.
Mhm.
And then that makes it easier to be vulnerable in the future because you feel safer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk practical stuff.
Okay.
How can our listener actually build and maintain these connections?
Right.
The sources have some pretty concrete ideas, like joining clubs or groups based around hobbies and interests.
Mm.
That seems like a pretty natural way to meet people who are already into the same stuff you are.
Absolutely. And that shared passion is really valuable.
Yeah.
When you're doing something you genuinely enjoy with other people, that connection just seems to happen more easily.
It makes sense.
And the material also talks about the benefits of volunteering.
Oh, yeah.
And there's actually research showing that helping others, contributing to something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
it activates similar pathways in the brain as like experiencing personal success.
Wow.
So you end up feeling really fulfilled and connected.
That really resonated with me when I read that because it's not just about like the altruistic part of it, although that's obviously great,
Yeah.
but it's also this amazing way to meet people
Right.
and to feel like you're part of something bigger.
Mhm.
It addresses that need for belonging we were talking about.
Exactly. It gives you a sense of purpose and contribution, which is really important for overall well-being.
Mhm.
And as the text points out, that purpose can also boost your self-esteem, and you might even like grow personally and learn new skills along the way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, the sources also don't shy away from a really important topic, loneliness and isolation,
Yeah.
especially as we get older.
Right.
It can be a real struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But there are solutions offered, like making a real effort to reach out to others,
Right.
getting involved in local activities, even picking up new hobbies as a way to meet new people.
Yeah, this is where that active role comes in again.
Hmm.
The material stresses that you don't just have to accept loneliness.
Right.
You can take real steps to change it.
Yeah.
Even small things, like going to a senior center or joining a community garden, can create those chances for connection and support.
And it's not all on the individual to fix this.
Oh, definitely not.
The sources point out how important the community is,
Mm.
Local organizations, government programs in offering services for seniors.
Yeah.
Things like transportation, meal deliveries that involve social interaction,
Yeah.
organized activities, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's about knowing what resources are available and reaching out, connecting with them.
Oh, exactly.
So when we look at the big picture, a really active and fulfilling social life, one that you're building yourself and that's also supported by the community around you,
Yeah.
it has huge benefits. Emotional support to help with stress, constant mental stimulation from engaging with others, that deep sense of belonging that we need.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it means a much better quality of life as we get older.
Okay, so we've really laid out why connection is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the sources introduced this really interesting tool called the Social Connection Inventory.
Yeah.
I thought this was so helpful.
Yeah.
It gives the listener a structured way to look at their own social life.
What I find interesting is that it goes beyond just saying connection is important.
Right.
It actually provides a way for you to assess yourself.
Yep.
It encourages you to really look at the quality and the quantity of your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do you feel really supported and engaged? And where might you be feeling isolated or lacking meaningful connection?
Exactly. And then it helps you go from that reflection to actually identifying areas where you might want to strengthen your connections.
Right.
And set some real goals, things you can actually achieve.
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as calling a specific friend once a week or finally joining that pottery class you've been thinking about.
Yeah, that focus on setting concrete goals that you can actually act on.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important because it takes what can feel like a huge task
Right.
and breaks it down into manageable steps.
Exactly.
And the advice to start small and gradually increase your social engagement, that feels a lot more approachable.
Right.
It's not about suddenly becoming super social if that's not really you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I really like the reminder to acknowledge and celebrate your progress.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Building these meaningful relationships, it takes time and effort, as the sources say.
Mm-hmm.
So recognizing those small wins along the way,
Right.
that's what keeps you motivated and helps you build those positive habits.
Absolutely. It creates this positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
You take a small action, you experience a positive result, even if it's just a nice conversation,
Right.
and that encourages you to keep investing in your connections.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
The sources also talk about how valuable it is to find a community of people who are like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a built-in support system.
Absolutely.
People who just get you.
Right. Sharing experiences with people who understand what you're going through, giving and receiving support.
Yeah.
The material really highlights how important that can be for your mental and emotional strength.
Right.
And it's important to remember that these communities can exist both in person and online
Oh, yeah.
through forums, support groups, online communities.
Right.
So there are lots of different ways to find that sense of belonging and encouragement.
So this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
After all this talk about social connection,
Yeah.
the sources shift gears and talk about something that seems like the opposite.
Mm.
The power of solitude.
Yeah.
It seems kind of counterintuitive,
Right.
but the material makes a really strong case for it.
It does, and it's such a crucial part of the conversation about well-being.
Yeah.
It's not about choosing between connection and solitude. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that both are important and they actually complement each other.
Interesting.
The sources explain that being alone on purpose isn't the same as being lonely.
Okay.
It's about actively connecting with yourself.
I see.
And that can be a really powerful way to build resilience, spark your creativity, and find inner peace.
Okay, so let's dig into some of the specific benefits here.
Sure.
Self-reflection and insight are listed first.
Mhm.
That makes sense when you're not constantly dealing with social demands and the craziness of everyday life.
Right.
You create mental space to actually process your thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
You can really understand your motivations, your values, your goals.
Exactly. It's that chance for introspection that often gets lost in our busy, socially engaged lives.
Yeah.
Solitude gives you the time to really listen to yourself, to understand your inner world on a deeper level.
It's true.
And it's fascinating. When you're alone regularly, it allows your brain's default mode network to activate.
What's that?
It's the part of your brain that's crucial for creativity, problem solving, and making sense of your experiences. And it's often suppressed when we're constantly connected to the world.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's this idea of increased resilience and independence.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how that works.
Right.
If you're comfortable being alone and you can actually find fulfillment in those moments of solitude,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably less likely to need external validation to be happy.
Right.
And you're probably better equipped to handle life's challenges on your own terms.
Exactly. It builds that inner strength, that self-sufficiency that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with more confidence
Hmm.
and less reliance on others for support.
You build your own inner anchor, kind
Yeah.
of like that.
Yeah.
And the third benefit is mental clarity and calm. I think in today's world, we could all use a little more of that.
No, for sure.
Sometimes you just got to step away from all the stimulation and interaction.
Right.
Quiet your mind, get rid of distractions, and just, be present with yourself.
Totally. Creating that mental space intentionally lets your thoughts settle.
Mm-hmm.
It fosters a deep sense of calm, and as the material points out, this can actually have a positive ripple effect.
Really?
Yeah, it can improve your overall mood and help you focus better. So when you do engage with others, you're more present and the interactions are more meaningful.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, practically speaking, how can our listeners tap into this power of solitude?
Right.
The sources have some really accessible exercises like mindful breathing.
Yeah.
Just taking 5 to 10 minutes a day to focus on your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a small investment for potentially big rewards in terms of calmness and self-connection.
Yeah, it's really easy to do and can have a huge impact on calming your nervous system and fostering that inner connection.
And it's only a few minutes.
Exactly. Even a few minutes of focused breathing can create a valuable pause in your day.
And then there's going for walks in nature.
Mm-hmm.
I personally find that so restorative.
Oh, me too.
Engaging your senses in the natural world, taking in all those details.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of quiet, and it can be so grounding.
The material really emphasizes that sensory experience.
Yeah.
It's about being present in nature, which is a powerful antidote to the stress and overstimulation of modern life.
It's true.
Yeah.
Journaling for reflection is another suggestion.
Yeah.
Taking a few minutes regularly to write down your thoughts and feelings. The prompts they offer, like focusing on gratitude or sources of peace, those seem like great starting points for understanding yourself better.
It's a great way to have an ongoing conversation with yourself, to process your experiences, and to track your personal growth over time. That routine of self-reflection can be really eye-opening.
And lastly, there's practicing a digital detox.
Yes.
Intentionally taking breaks from our screens.
Right.
In today's world, that almost feels radical.
It does, doesn't it?
But it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Giving yourself that uninterrupted time. Rediscovering the beauty of slowing down and being present.
It's about consciously creating that space away from the constant demands and distractions of technology, allowing your mind to rest, reset, and focus inward.
Okay, so if we bring all this together,
Yeah.
it sounds like the key to aging well isn't about choosing between social connection and solitude.
Right.
It's about finding a balance between the two.
Exact.
One that works for you.
The sources do a beautiful job of showing how these two seemingly opposite things are actually interconnected. Solitude gives you that foundation of self-awareness, resilience, and inner peace.
Yeah.
And that actually makes your relationships stronger and deeper.
Right.
And it helps you appreciate those social interactions even more.
It's like solitude recharges you so you can connect with others more fully.
Exactly.
And then those positive social connections give you support, joy, shared experiences, which enrich your time spent both with others and on your own.
Exactly. Valuing and nurturing both solitude and connection leads to what the material describes as a more harmonious and fulfilling life.
Yeah.
One that supports your well-being as you age.
So wrapping up our deep dive into these sources on aging well, the message is clear. Social connection is crucial for our emotional and mental health as we age.
Right.
And there are concrete steps we can all take to build those relationships.
Yeah.
From joining groups to volunteer. But just as important, and maybe even overlooked sometimes, is embracing solitude.
Yeah.
It helps us grow our self-awareness, build resilience, and find a sense of peace. And that ultimately enhances every aspect of our lives.
What's really insightful here is that the material encourages a holistic approach. It's not about picking one over the other.
Right?
It's about consciously bringing both deeper connections with others and dedicated time for ourselves into our lives
Yeah.
in a way that truly supports our needs and promotes our well-being as we age.
So for our listeners, here's a final thought to ponder. How might consciously integrating both deeper connections with others, any dedicated time for yourself, actually reshape and enrich your experience of aging? It's a journey worth taking.
I think so too.
I think so too.